Hello, my name's Tim Shoebridge and welcome to this video, which is the third, well, I think it's certainly the third talking video that I've done about this synthesizer behind me here. If you can see it, the Behringer Poly D. Now, I know an awful lot of you are still waiting very patiently to receive your Poly Ds. I was very, very fortunate. I got this synthesizer right at the very beginning, in the middle of December, and I've had it for quite a long time now. Now, about a month ago, I think it was, I put out a video saying, look, I've had the synth for a while. These are my thoughts on it, some pluses and minuses. This particular video is going to be very similar. I've just got a few more thoughts to say on the Poly D. And then I'm going to draw a line under this synthesizer and not do any more videos on it, because I'm sure you're all getting pretty sick to death of me giving you my thoughts on this synthesizer. But I just want to say, you know, I don't get paid to do these videos. I don't get any preferential treatment from the manufacturers. There's absolutely no reason for me to sit down here and try and sell you a synthesizer or try and plug one to you and say it's great when I really don't think so. I'm giving you my honest opinions about the things I like and the things I don't like. And I'm going to say, and I know people are really polarized about Behringer right now, but this particular synthesizer, if we just think about this piece of hardware, of all the synths that I've bought over the last 12 months, which is way too many, of all of those synthesizers, this one has been the one that I have enjoyed and played with the most. It's been the most inspirational to me. And I had that same feeling when I bought the Behringer Model D a little bit over, what, 2 years ago now? For me, that little Model D, tweaking the controls, playing it using a controller keyboard, was so inspirational. I just loved the sounds I was getting out of it, and I loved the immediacy of it, and it really inspired me to write a lot of music. And I'm getting those exact same feelings with the Poly D now. And obviously those two synthesizers are quite similar, certainly in terms of their user interface, and I think that that's got a big part of why I am so sort of drawn to it. And now obviously this is very, very personal, but I'm clearly realizing that I prefer simple and immediate user interfaces and not complex menu-driven ones. It's just, for me, just so inspiring. Sit down, tweak controls, hear the difference in the sound, and obviously with the Poly D, you've got the keyboard built in. You don't have to hook it up to anything else. It's just a fantastic instrument for me personally to sit down, noodle around with, and write music. The other reason why I think it's inspirational is, of course, the sounds that you get out of it. And I love the sounds, the real sort of organic and definitely analog sounding sounds that I'm getting out of the Poly D, just the same as the Model D as well. But it's not all big smiley faces and thumbs up in this video. I have uncovered a couple more issues with the synthesizer, and that's really what I wanted to sort of concentrate on for the rest of this video. I don't think the issues are massively critical. They're certainly not showstoppers, and I'm hopeful that they could be fixed in firmware. Now, they're quite simple issues, but they're quite complicated for me to explain. So I'm going to do my best to be as clear and concise and brief as possible, but please bear with me as I describe these two issues to you. And then the only other thing I want to do with this video is, once I've described those issues, is I want to sort of showcase some more of the sounds that I'm getting out of this synthesizer and how I'm using it and the kind of music that I'm making with it, because I think that kind of validates why you're listening to me in the first place. And so I'm going to play you a song at the end of the video. It's only about 3 minutes long. It's not massively long. I haven't had the time to put together a fancy video to sort of like showcase that song at all. So you'll just see it playing in Cubase, but it's all about the sounds. Just listen to it. That's the kind of stuff I'm getting out of the synthesizer. You'll only hear Poly D sounds in that song and nothing else. So that's what's coming up next. 2 issues, 1 song. I really do appreciate you following me on this journey of my synthesizers. As always, thank you very, very much for watching. Right, so the first issue that I want to draw to your attention is relating to MIDI. Now, When I am recording and writing music, I will generally be using my controller keyboard, which is the one you can't actually see down here, and I'll be using that to record the MIDI notes, the notes that I'm playing, and then I will be in my DAW sending those MIDI data out to whatever synthesizer I'm playing on, and that's just the normal way of work. However, when I'm writing for a specific synthesizer, like I'm doing for this video and the other videos that I do for different synthesizers, then I'll want to sort of write and compose on the same synthesizer that I'm going to be playing the sounds on. So, for example, I will have my Poly D. I'll have it set up to my my DAW, which is Cubase. I'll have a MIDI track. I'll be recording the notes that I'm playing. Once I've recorded something interesting, I'll then play it back in my DAW, back to the same synth, back to the Poly D, and that will allow me to sort of be listening to it while I tweak the controls and play around with the sound. And that's how I generally work, and I'm sure that's how many people work. So to sort of explain this more fully, I'm going to show you now a screenshot of Cubase. I've got in here two MIDI tracks that I've set up, one called MIDI Matriarch and one called MIDI Poly D. If I click on the Matriarch one and we look here in this sort of inspector panel in Cubase, you'll see how it's set up. Now this here is the MIDI input, and the one below it is the MIDI output. Now I've got like user-friendly names that I'm able to set up for all my MIDI devices on my computer. So I've got the input, the MIDI input is coming from the Matriarch, and the MIDI output is going to the Matriarch. The Matriarch is configured to listen to MIDI channel 1, and that's what I've got down here, MIDI channel 1. So with this setup, it all works. You can hear the Matriarch, and here, if you look in Cubase at this little sort of indicator here, as I play, that's an indicator of it's receiving MIDI data. And that's fine, that's how all my other synthesizers work. Now, if we come on to the Poly D, again, I've set up my Poly D MIDI device as being a nice name, Poly D here, and I've got it as my input, I've got it as my output. The Poly D is listening and sending on channel 1, so everything looks the same as it should be. But when I play the keys, nothing, no sound at all. You'll see that here, with the little indicator, that MIDI data is being received. We just don't get anything playing on it. Now, in Cubase, I don't know how it is in other DAWs, but in Cubase I can turn off that immediate sending out of MIDI data to the output, and I can do that by turning off this little record button here. So you see by default when you select a track, the record button is enabled. That's something you can actually change, but by default it's enabled. But if I turn it off, it means that Cubase will be receiving the MIDI data but not actually sending it straight back out again to the synthesizer. And if I turn it off, it all works. When I turn it on, it doesn't work. And what I believe, what I'm guessing is going on here, is that the Poly D is getting confused. It's generating MIDI notes with the notes on the keyboard that I'm playing, but it's also receiving straight away those exact same MIDI notes back via the MIDI cable, and it doesn't know what to do with them. And so therefore you get complete silence. It's easy to get around it once you know about it. I have to just make sure that I uncheck that, and I'm okay to go. The trouble is, of course, when I want to record the notes from the Poly D, I'm going to need that switched on. And so what I have to do is, with this particular channel, is I have to sort of like divert its output to any other synthesizer, or actually to nothing. And now, once I've done that, I can play it and I can record it. Like that. If I didn't sort of disconnect the output, if I put it back to the Poly D, and then we try and record some more, as you'll see in the screen, I'm recording the MIDI notes that I'm playing, but I can't hear them. So that is the bug. I am sure it is fixable in firmware because the whole sort of MIDI interface is digital. It's firmware controlled. So I'm hoping that that's a very simple fix for them to make. But it's very weird that it's not the same behavior I have on any other synthesizer that I have, but I have it with the Poly D. And I think that I can just see sort of thousands of people getting their Poly Ds, hooking it up to their hardware sequences or their DAWs, and then scratching their heads and going, what the hell's going on? Why isn't it working? And so it's something that I think you really should be aware of if you're thinking of getting the synthesizer. But as I say, hopefully they will fix it very soon. Right, so now on to the second issue, which is really quite a minor issue, I have to say. You might think I'm nitpicking. I probably am. But it's to do with sound quality, basically. So what I've got set up on the Poly D is a little plucky kind of patch. And the way that I've created that patch is not using the loudness contour. I've got the attack and the decay set down to 0. I've got full sustain. But what's creating that pluckiness is the filter contour. So I've got no attack, I've got a very short decay and a little bit of sustain, so that if I hold down a note, it doesn't die away completely. You can hear it quietly. So that's the little patch that I've got going. And the little issue that I have, the annoyance that I have, is that there is a click, an audible click when I let go of the notes. Now, I'm not talking about the mechanical sound of the keyboard. I'm talking about sonically there's a click. So what I'm going to have to do in this video is sort of duck out my microphone so you can just hear the line out of the synth to hear the click properly. So I'm going to have to do that. But the click comes when I release the key. So when I release it, I'm not sure if in YouTube if you're going to hear that, but there is a click. Now, it doesn't matter how quickly or slowly I take my finger off the keys, the click is there when I choose to release the note. Obviously, if I'm playing quickly, it's less noticeable, but it's still there. Now, the weird thing is that I found a way of getting around this and getting rid of that click, and that is to turn up the decay of the loudness contour. So there's no decay at the moment. It's on full sustain. There's no release either. The decay switch is off. But if I turn up the decay, then the click disappears. Get rid of the decay. Add it back. None. So it's a bit weird. There is a way around it. Once you know, you know. But I'm a little bit concerned that this control is getting rid of that click, because this control shouldn't have any influence over the release portion of the envelope. I've got this switch switched off. It shouldn't have any, it shouldn't make any difference at all, but it clearly does. And that kind of is sort of pointing towards the fact that there's something not quite right with the way that this envelope is set up. So that's it. That's the second issue. Not a big one, but I just thought I'd mention it. So now I'm going to get on and just play you the song, the latest song that I put together, which is using Poly D sounds and nothing else. There's a drum track, but all of the synth sounds you'll hear is the Poly D. So that's coming up next.